Ladies and gentlemen, Detroit Red Wings and Steve Yzerman got their guy. As of, I believe, 8 o'clock on July 9th, 2023, the Detroit Red Wings signed Alex Debrincat to a 4-year, $7.875 AAV contract. And, wow, it's big. Now, I say it's big because it is arguably the biggest trade that has happened so far. And not even just terms of star power, because obviously Debrincat is essentially a star. But at the same time, this was such a long and drawn-out process. You know, you go back to last season with Tkachuk and the Calgary, Florida deal. That was drawn on until August. And a lot of people, including myself, thought that this was going to do that. So to have it done, I literally just found out about it like 30 minutes ago because I was doing stuff. And I'm not plugged into the, Red Wings world all the time. But I found out about this, and it's such a good feeling to know that Detroit's going to have what is essentially pure goal scorer finally on their team. We had hopes that would be Zadina, and then we had hopes that it would be Rasmussen, and then like 4 more people essentially, and that never turned out, obviously. But to have a proven 40 goal scorer in the system and going to be on the Red Wings main roster next year. Let's keep it realistic here. He's going to be on Detroit's roster next year for at least 4 years. It's going to be great. You're going to have a top line of likely him, Raymond, and Larkin, or him, Larkin, and Perron. Raymond and Perron are likely going to be the two that contest for that top spot. Because you're not going to put Kopp up there. You're not going to put Compher up there. No, those are going to be your second, third line guys. So to have that goal-scoring prowess, obviously Larkin can score goals. He was a fucking 32. He's a 30-plus goal scorer. He has been for 3 of the seasons he's been in the NHL. And he will likely continue to put up those numbers. But Larkin is a playmaker, essentially. He pretty much had no choice but to score 30-plus goals. But he's also the best playmaker. I won't say the best playmaker because I think Perron's the best playmaker that Detroit has, but Larkin is one of the best playmakers Detroit has, which is, why he's on the top line. But also because he's their best face-off guy. But we're not talking about Larkin here. We're talking about Debrincat. And it is not out of the realm of possibility that Debrincat gets him 40 goals again. He's likely going... If Larkin can hit over 30 goals on this Detroit Red Wings team, Debrincat sure as shit can hit 30 goals on this Red Wings team, because he hit 27 goals last season with Ottawa. If his floor is 27 goals, a lot of people will say, oh, it's because he doesn't have Patrick Kane. Even without Patrick Kane, he was almost pretty much a 30-goal scorer. So if he could hit 27, almost 30 goals on that Ottawa Senator team pretty much by himself, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he can hit 40 goals again on the Red Wings. So before we get too deep into Debrincat, I want to talk about what we got for him. So Detroit for Alex Debrincat Ottawa got Dominik Kubalik, Donovan Sebrango, a conditional first, and Detroit's 2024 4th-round pick. Now, the picks are, here and there. The 2024 4th round, it's pretty much nothing. 4th-rounders are pretty much guys that you pick, best available player, essentially. And then, 4th round's kind of in the middle. You pick the best available player, but you can also go for, best available player in a preferred position. So 4th round's kind of a mixed bag. Obviously Detroit's had some pretty decent luck with that. Even recent history in the middle rounds. We've had Mazer, Berger, and Soderblom. We've had pretty decent luck with it. So it could turn out to be something, could not. You got the conditional first. A lot of people are looking at that, or at least not a lot of people, but I've seen some people looking at that, and it's shown that they're saying that he better be worth it. And conditional first basically just means that Detroit gets to pick which first they get. So it's likely going to end up being Boston's first-round pick next season because they're not going to tank. It's not going to happen. They're pretty much the same team that they were. Obviously they don't have Bergeron or Krejci, so their center depth is pretty lacking, but they're likely not even going to drop out of the playoffs. So it's likely going to be that, but you never know. Nobody expected Boston to have the best NHL season in NHL history last season, so anything's possible. But then you get into the guys that we traded for. Donovan Sebrango, he spent most of his time in Grand Rapids, so he's not a barn burner or anything. He was drafted in 2020 in round 3, the 63rd overall, and he's a guy, essentially. Didn't do much. 2020, he was on loan to HK Levis, however you say that. He had 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points in 5 games. Went to Grand Rapids, 4 assists for 4 points in 31 games, 7 points for 6 assists, 1 goal, 65 games. Did meh in the U18. He was an associate captain. Then when he was full-time in Grand Rapids, he went 4-3 for 7 points in 39 games. Then he went to Toledo, 1 goal, 11 assists for 12 points in 23 games. So he's a suitable third-line D-man. But the biggest name, Dominik Kubalik, and this is what I'm actually kind of sad about because I liked Kubalik. He was a bit inconsistent, yes. He got off stupid hot at the beginning of the season. Like, I believe at one point at the beginning of the season, he was on a 150-point pace, which everybody knew that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it kind of sucks because Kubalik is a solid guy. I believe he was drafted 2013 round 7 by LA, and I don't think he ever played for LA. So he's brought into Chicago, 30 goals, 16 assists, 46 points in 68 games. Then the next season with Chicago as well, 17 goals, 21 assists for 38 points in 56 games. So he's at minimum a half-point per game player. And you look here, he's proven to score 30 goals. Then, he goes to World Championships, lights it up, stuff like that. Then Chicago again, the year that they didn't qualify him, which was his last year. 15 goals, 17 assists for 32 points in 78 games. This was when Chicago was god-awful, and we're getting ready, and we're actually tanking. Then he came over to Detroit, 20 goals, 25 assists for 45 points in 81 games. He played almost all 82 games. I think he was scratched 1 game for Verona. So he is a half-point per game player, essentially. So he's a middle 6 guy. He's not going to be on your top line or anything, at least points-wise. Face stats, he's not going to be on your top line, but he's likely second. He's at least, he can be top line. He played top line in Detroit a few times, but he's likely going to be on your second or third line. In Ottawa, he'll probably be on the second line. So then he lit it up in the World Championship too. 8 goals, 4 assists for 12 points. He was 2 points per game, essentially. Like, he was almost 2 points per game. Like, I think it was 1.5 points per game. And, here he was, over 1 point per game as well. So Kubalik is, like I said, I'm sad to see him go. I really liked him. But if that's what it costs to get a guy who's a proven 40 goal scorer and whose floor is essentially 30 goals, then yeah, I can live with it. It hurts a bit, but I can live with it. Now we get into the man of the hour, Alex Debrincat. Oh boy. Like I said, Detroit signed him for a little over $7 million for 4 years, which was a shorter contract than I think even Debrincat's team wanted. I don't know if Debrincat himself did, which I'm sure he would have liked it, because he wanted word was that at least his team was trying to get an 8-year deal for him, but Yzerman didn't want to go to 8 years, which makes sense, because coming next season, you're going to have Seider, Bergeron, Rasmussen, and Reimer all RFAs. Seider is going to get at least 8 years. I imagine Reimer's probably going to get minimum 6. Seider's getting 8 years. Reimer's going to get minimum 6 years. Bergeron, I imagine, is probably going to get 4 or 5. Rasmussen's probably going to get 4 or 5. They have guys that they need to re-sign next season, so it only makes sense that they, don't want to have that many, 7-8 year contracts on the books. Because, we see it in the Islanders, I'm pretty sure it is, where, you've got fourth-line depth players signed to 8-year deals. So, you don't want that for guys like that. I wouldn't have minded it for Debrincat, if I'm being honest, because if we signed him for 8 years, then that means we get a guy who could score 40 goals for 8 years, and you don't, because when that 4 years comes up, there's a very good chance that he's going to get a pay raise. If he performs like he did in Chicago, and even better, because you'll be on a better team, then there's a very good chance he will get a pay raise, and that pay raise could be more than what Larkin's making. And Larkin, another guy who's on an 8-year deal. So, obviously, they weren't going to pay him more than Larkin, at least with this deal. They weren't going to pay him more than Larkin, especially based off of his last season where he had 27 goals, 39 assists for 66 points. So he's never hit Larkin's point total, but at the same time, he's a great player. So it's not too crazy to think that 4 years down the line, when he's a UFA, that Yzerman re-signs him. If he performs well, that Yzerman will re-sign him, and he'll get 8, 9, maybe even 10 million. If he consistently scores 40 goals, I don't see why he wouldn't get that. So if we look at his stats since he came in, he was drafted by Chicago in round 2 in the 2016 draft. He's another thing that people like to talk about with Debrincat. He's 5'7". Yes, he's a very, very small man, and that's not even I think he's shorter than Bergeron. Let me double check that, because I'm not sure how big Bergeron is. Yeah, he's shorter than Bergeron by 3 inches. 4 inches. Yeah, I did that math right. So he's going to be the smallest player on the team, which is wild. I didn't realize Bergeron was 5'11". I thought Bergeron was a bit shorter than that. I thought Bergeron was 5'9". But yes, Debrincat is going to be Debrincat's 5'7", 165 pounds. He's not big, but you don't need big, really. He's pretty fast, and if you put him out there with Seider and Wallman, or Sherratt and Edvinsson likely, or Detroit's got big body defensemen for a reason. You're not going to, and plus everybody knows Larkin has no problem just punching somebody. He did that numerous times last season. So it's not going to be as detrimental as people think it's going to be. But if you look here in the OHL, his draft year, or the year after his draft, he was associate captain for the Erie Otters in the OHL. 65 goals, 62 points for 165 assists for 127 points in 63 games. Which, it's the OHL. You always got to take that with a grain of salt, because it's a development league essentially. And then you go to Chicago. His first year, he scored 28 goals, 24 points, 24 assists for 52 points in 82 games. So he played a full season and was over a half point per game. Then he played for the USA in the World Championships, 1 goal, 8 assists for 9 points in 10 games. Next season with Chicago is when he really lit it up. In 82 games, he scored 41 goals, 35 points, 35 assists for 76 points. And in the World Championships, lit it up again, 7 goals, 2 assists for 9 points in 8 games. 2019 with Chicago, 2019-2020, 18 goals, 27 assists, 45 points in 70 games. That was one of those weird years. 2019-2020 was just a weird year in general. Tampa Bay had an incredible record and got swept in the first round. It was a weird year, but he definitely had a sophomore slump, some would say. It just in his third year. I didn't mean to do that. Just in his third year. So a what is that, junior slump, I guess. I don't know. But then 2020, 2021, he's made an associate captain, and he lives up to it. You know, it's the shortened season because of COVID. So but in 52 games, 32 points, 24 assists, with 56 points in 52 games. So he was over a point per game. Then the next year, he popped off again. 41 goals, 37 assists for 78 points in 82 games. And then with Ottawa, he kind of dropped off. But, you know, it's still great numbers. 27 goals, 39 assists for 66 points in 82 games. And we've yet to see what he can do in Detroit. So it's going to be very fun to watch him. You know, obviously everybody's watched him. He's Alex Debrincat. You know, you've seen him in Chicago and Ottawa. So everybody's watched him. He is one of the steals of the draft. You know, you don't normally find 40 goal scorers in the second round, or anywhere past the first round. Obviously, there's some exceptions. You know, Zetterberg was drafted in the 7th round, so it's not a tried and true method, but it does happen. So, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below how you think DeBrincat's going to fit into this lineup, into the Red Wings lineup. Do you think he's worth the money? Personally, I do. I think he would. I was hoping he would have been signed for longer. And good luck to Dominik Kubalik and Donovan Sebrango. I wish nothing but the best of luck to both of them. Poor Kubalik, man. Brad Crisgrove of the Wing World podcast kind of fucking called it. After, you know, the Zadina stuff went down, he basically said, do you think Kubalik is looking at his passport and going, uh-oh? And sure as shit, he should have been, because Detroit no longer has any more Czech players. Which is a look, but it's not bad, realistically. We haven't had very much luck with Czech players. Kubalik was the exception, really. But regardless, it's neither here nor there. And, yeah, I'm excited to watch him. So, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is, as always, the Mexinadian. And I will talk to you guys later. Adios.